Welcome back to Pinching Pennies with me, Rhonda. In today's video, I'm bringing back some 4th of July nostalgia. I'll be doing some thrifting, some crafting, and some blueberry pie making. And don't forget, at the end of the video, I share my 5 off 25 coupon plan for the Dollar General store. So let's get started. Whenever I'm doing a vignette, I find it helpful to go online and find an inspiration picture. I found this one on antiquefarmhouse.com. They have beautiful stuff for sale there, but it's high price. So I'm just going to use their picture and try to find my own items. I figured my best bet would be at an antique store. And here's another idea that I got from that website. I wanted to frame an American flag. And this is what I'm talking about, high prices. This is what they wanted for a framed American flag. So I went to one of my favorite antique stores looking for some of these items. Boy, was I tempted. The first thing I walked into in the antique store was the teapot sale, $5 a piece. And I love teapots, but I don't really need any more teapots. So left the teapots alone. So my list of things I'm hunting for is short. Definitely a Coke crate, and I wanted some of those thermoses. Any kind of old-timey tin that was the right colors, even if it was a Folgers coffee tin or something like that, or any vintage Americana that I happened to run across at an affordable price, of course. I liked this basket. I think it had the right colors. However, it was $6 and I'm a little bit spoiled at one of the thrift stores that I go to. I can get them much cheaper. And it always hurts my heart to pass up an enamelware granite pot. I was scanning over everything in this booth just because it had a lot of red and blue, and there it was, sitting in the back, a Coke crate. Now I know Coke crates aren't cheap, but I have seen them on occasion for about $15 in my area. So let's take a look. Oh dear Lord, nope. That's not gonna be in my price range. Milk bottles like this would probably go well in this vignette, but I already have some of those at home. Can you guess which one of these things I'm going to check the price of? Those little blue stripes would have been perfect, but that's way too much money. And look at this butter crock. I ran across this real Mother Goose book, and this is exactly like one I had as a child. And I just want to point out how scary Mother Goose looked. No red, white, and blue, but I had to show you how pretty this booth was. Old soda bottles with red labels would go well, but still $10 a bottle is a lot. I keep running across these little glass pitchers. At first glance, this booth looked Christmassy with all the red and green, but look how cute with the strawberries and mushrooms, and my goodness, how I love jade green dishes. Okay, back on track. We're looking for Americana, red, white, and blue. These things would go, but too much money. I love a metal bread box. Oh, one more booth that isn't Americana, but look at this kitty cat jar. It didn't have a lid. I'm guessing it was a cookie jar, but I've never seen anything like it. And it had a little mug. They were the sweetest things I've ever seen. Ooh, now this might work, and only $2, that's in the budget, and I might go back for it. This old cooler is really interesting. I'm not sure if it's pretty or not, but interesting. And here are some Coke crates, hallelujah, but they're plastic. They're within budget, but they're plastic, so I just couldn't decide because I wanted a wooden one. And this thing sitting down in the corner, as I knelt down to check its price tag, I was hoping that it would be something that I could spend. And even though it came with a lot of stuff, it wasn't a bad price, but still more than I wanted to spend. A Raggedy Ann and Andy always is Americana. And this red milk bottle, which I don't know. Something's wrong about a red milk bottle. I just couldn't make myself buy it. I am awfully tempted sometimes to redecorate my whole house in a 50s theme, and this would be a perfect couch. I don't think I'll ever really do it, but it's always fun to think. Oh, heavens to Betsy, if you have this set, then you're lucky and you should put it out every 4th of July. Every summer it should live out. It's so cute. Another tempting metal bread box. That one is a good price too. I'm surprised I didn't go home with it. I already had plans of framing an American flag, so I really didn't need this. I guess I'm turning into a chicken lady because these two I could have took home with me. This was the cutest Coca-Cola thing I saw in the whole antique store. It had ceramic drawers. I've never seen any such. And then I saw this little bench made out of a Coca-Cola crate, which could suit the purpose well, but I really wanted a crate because I wanted something that I could put stuff in. I was sad to leave the antique store without any Coca-Cola crate, but I had plans to make a crate if I couldn't find one. Along with all the other things in my inspiration picture, I'm just going to get creative and I'm going to head over to the Goodwill and find some things to make over. Remember, when you're thrifting, things are not always what they seem. This CD tower is going to be my Coke crate. And much cheaper too, at only $2 and some change. I wish I could have found a picnic basket, but this one is cheap and it's already white, so I'm gonna use it. And I remember seeing something like this on the Antique Farmhouse website, and it was only $1 and some change here. And here is the frame that I'm going to use to frame my American flag. And coming in at just the right price. So back home again with all my Goodwill finds to transform them into antique 4th of July decorations. I think a dry paintbrush works good to dust out things that you bring home from the thrift store and clean everything out with a damp wash rag and Dawn dish soap. I wanted this thing to be as close to an antique Coke crate as possible, so I needed to give it a clean slate, so I painted the whole thing with a coat of white DIY paint. To make this thing look old and a little more authentic, I am giving it a wooden look with Waverly antiquing wax, and I'm using it like a stain, so I am putting it on and then I'm wiping it back out. And as I wipe it back out, it takes back some of that white paint down to the original brown wood. So that's where you get your layers and the most interesting vintage looking pieces. To age it even further, I'm using my damp washcloth to wet distress all around the edges. Next it's time to do the red paint, and so I got out all my red paint to try to decide which one is the closest to Coca-Cola red. I thought the first two on my little paint stick here were the closest, and those colors were bright red and red apple. And I don't remember which one I actually liked better for Coca-Cola red. I thought either one would work, so I went with the one I had the most of, which was red apple. But then I decided to go over that with the bright red, so I had two different colors of red, and so therefore making more dimension and making this vintage crate look old. Then I used my Waverly antiquing wax to go along the edges and make some dark spots where the wood has aged. And then I wet distressed in those areas to get down to the bare wood on the very bottom, showing the different layers of paint and making it look very old. Now for the Coca-Cola logo, I just printed this off of an actual Coca-Cola crate picture that I found online. So just any Coca-Cola logo that you find, or even a picture of a crate, you can just print it out on your regular printer. And then I used the old color in the back with a pencil and then trace it, and your design will be on your wood, and then you can fill it in with paint. So it's hand painted, but you have this lovely easy guide to go by. I realize that y'all can't see this on camera, but I could. And I filled it in with white DIY paint with my arsenal of very tiny thin paint brushes. But there's different ways that you could do this. You could make a stencil, or maybe possibly buy a Coca-Cola stencil. I just went with this route because it was what I had on hand. I had paint. I had some issues with the little swooshy-doo thing underneath of the Coca-Cola wording, but I go back and work on that some more. But I sanded it to make it look old and vintage, because the paint is very, bright red, and the white is very bright white, and I want this to look old, so I sanded it down. And this is the final product. Is it a Coca-Cola crate? Well, from a distance, it might look like one. And a real Coca-Cola crate would have the logo on the other side too, but I wasn't going through all that when only one side is going to show. But I do love the scruffy, scuffy little back of this crate, and I'm pretty happy with it. Now, framing an American flag. It is as easy as it sounds. I bought this flag at Rural King. It was $1 and some change. This is the size 12 by 18, I think. So that's going to help you when you go to the thrift store looking for a frame. You know about what size to look for. Now let's remember our inspiration pick off of antiquefarmhouse.com. And you see that it's a white frame with some chipped up looking edges on it. So we can do that, right? The first thing I had to do was remove the flag safely from its wooden stick. I didn't want it to tear because I didn't have any room for error here, because you see that the field of blue starts right on the edge. So I had to be very careful in removing my staples. Now get a frame, and I thought that this frame might have a mat inside, but I couldn't really tell if there was actually a mat or if that was part of the print, so we're getting ready to find out. And no, it wasn't a mat, but it had a nice antique color around the edge of this picture, so I will be able to make it work anyway. Let's see what happens when we put the flag on top of that. So you see how it's kind of got an aged look to it anyway, so I like that. And even though this flag is a bright brand new white flag, and I'm not going to tea stain it even though my instincts tell me otherwise, I'm going to leave it new, and I'm going to use this aged looking background instead. This whole frame got 2 coats of the white DIY paint, and then the little splotchy distressing with Waverly antiquing wax. I just tried to copy what I remembered from the picture, which kind of looked like little brown chippy spots all over. And I really have no idea why I decided to wipe this down with a dry paper towel. I guess I wanted to wipe back some of the wax where I thought I had gone a little heavy, but what wound up happening was it scratched back off to some of the gold. And I kind of thought that was fitting. I wanted some of the gold to show through, because America is near and dear to my heart. No matter what state it is in now, it still holds wonderful, wonderful memories. That's it. Then I put everything all back together again, and this is how it turned out. Next up is trying to turn this little Easter basket into a picnic style basket, and so the only thing I'm going to really be able to do is give it a nice red and white checked liner like the picnic basket had. This is a tea towel that I honestly don't remember where it came from. It's been in my kitchen cabinet drawer for a long time. I get it out at Christmas sometimes, but I think I can sacrifice it to make a cute picnic basket. So all I'm going to do is arrange it inside and hot glue it around the top edge so that it looks like it was just made this way, and that's it. There's nothing else to do but fill it with something. I really liked the campfire marshmallow tin in the inspiration picture, and so I'm going to make my own version using a candle. So I measured out what size label I would need to make, and this is just a picture that I googled. I just googled campfire marshmallow tin and found this picture, and all I did was remove the existing label, and then I used the Elmer's glue stick to apply my new label. Then I wanted to paint the lid so that it would look like a rusty old tin, so I gave it some layers of paint. So I started out with this dark black paint first, and then I did a beige color on top of that, and then my top coat was white DIY paint. And of course used my trusty hairdryer to dry each layer in between painting. Then I aged it with Waverly antiquing wax. And to make rust, I mixed up a concoction of white school glue and cinnamon, and I mixed it up with a paintbrush and dabbed it around the edges to make rusted spots. This is a really fun technique and something to play around with. There was also a Cracker Jack tin in that inspiration pic, which would be almost impossible for me to find. So I'm going to make one out of a macaroni and cheese box. And again, I just Googled Cracker Jack vintage Cracker Jack box. This is what I printed, and I'm just going to wrap some regular white paper around the macaroni and cheese box, wrapping it up like a Christmas gift, and then I will use the Elmer's glue stick again to attach this printout. And this last little thing here is supposed to replicate one of those thermoses. So I have this vinyl that I got at the Dollar Tree when they had their Christmas stuff out one year. And I'm going to make a wrap for this pickle jar. So I just kind of eyeballed how long a piece I would need. I didn't measure anything. I just kind of went with the flow, and I made a wrap, and then I cut these little diamond pieces out of the vinyl, and I think the design goes perfect with the little grouping. Now, just one more thing I wanted to do before I get to decorating with all the cute things I just made. I'm going to make a blueberry pie, and this is my first time making a blueberry pie. I've made cherry pies before, but never blueberry. So the recipe I'm going by says to rinse your berries, and then you need to leave them wet. It's important that they stay wet. And preheat your oven to 350. Now, the recipe called for 2 pie crusts, and the lady actually used the store-bought pie crust like this. And I've used these pie crusts before. However, I've used Pillsbury. I thought they all worked the same. So I grabbed these pie crusts from Kroger, and I tried to unroll one, and look what happened. It was all broken and brittle and dry and weird, and I thought I just got a bad batch or something. My Pillsbury ones never did that. So I thought, well, I've got to fix this. So I just balled it all up and got my rolling pin out and kind of worked with it and got it pliable. And that's when I realized, the box actually says it. You're supposed to let it sit out 15 to 20 minutes before you use it. Okay, so if I would have read instructions, then this would have come out a lot prettier. So it's going to be an ugly blueberry pie, I'm sorry to say. But I did save the crust. And I even had enough to have some sort of lattice. Now, the pie filling recipe is really simple. So you have your rinsed blueberries, And now you're going to take 1 cup of self-rising flour and sprinkle that all over the blueberries and toss it around so that the blueberries are coated in the self-rising flour. Now then you sprinkle 1 cup of sugar on top of the blueberries, which seems like it started piling up, but I guess it's gonna melt down in. I kind of shook it around. And then you take 2/3 of a stick of butter, cut it into little pats, and place it around on top. Then I took what I had left for lattice strips, and I didn't even try to weave it or anything like that because by this point I was already a little bit exasperated with the crust. If I had just read the directions, I could have saved myself all that. But anyhow, I have just enough strips to make it somewhat pretty. And then sprinkle some sugar on the top of the crust. It goes on a foil-lined baking sheet for bubble over, but mine really didn't even bubble over. And bake at 350 for 45 minutes. And you know I had to make some vanilla ice cream with my second-hand ice cream maker. Now while the pie is baking and the ice cream is churning, I'm going to do my decorating. You know I like to repurpose things that I already have, so these flowers that were hanging on the wall beside this cabinet I thought might look pretty still with this vignette, so I used them in my Coca-Cola crate. And finally, here is how it all turned out. I was really happy with what I was able to make with less than $10. Mind you, a lot of this stuff was free for me, but even if you had to thrift some items, you can totally make some really swoon-worthy summer decor, 4th of July decorations, or whatever you want on a very, very low budget. Meanwhile, my pie was done baking, and even though it's not the prettiest pie in the world, I thought I'd be patriotic about it and cool it with my old antique fan and some little streamers that made me smile. And it didn't really quite come out of the pan nice like a piece of pie. It's more like a cobbler. I got 2 scoops of my homemade ice cream, and I'm taking it outside, and you guys are going to go outside with me. But first, the 5 off $25 general plan for this Saturday. Don't forget to clip your 5 off 25 coupon, only good for June 22nd. Here's our list for this Saturday. You can stop and screenshot it now. And I'll go through the coupons you need to have clipped. Dove body lotion, and we have a 5 off 2 coupon. And so the second thing we're getting is the men's Dove body wash. And then 2 of the 2 packs of Colgate Optic White. And we have a 5 off 2 coupon. So we have $26.50 in products and $15 in coupons Don't forget to put in your phone number at checkout and you'll have $11.50 to pay after. And remember, that's 4 tubes of toothpaste. So good luck. I hope you do well at your couponing this Saturday. Now I'm going to go have my dessert out on the back deck and you all can join me. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really had a ball making it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! And the blueberry pie was lovely. Hey, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and if you're not busy, click here and subscribe, and you can watch some more of my videos.